Alright, this is Sprint 9. Quickly, I just want to address the things from the past issues. First, yes, you're right, I do not need to multiply the matrices together. Turns out I was doing matrix times vector when I needed to do vector times matrix. So that was a fun little escapade that I had. For documentation, you said that you weren't quite clear. Just for example, within the model manager, I have get documented, but I don't have private get documented. The private functions aren't completely documented, and then things like this, I don't really see the need to either, since this is just the same as, it's a pass-through function, it's the same. So who knows, I might not even ever document those three functions, but that's just an example. Moving on, within the draw step now, you'll notice that these have been commented out. Now we just call draw, and then the scene itself handles, okay, draw, then visualize, then scene manager. And you can also see we have our new screen log, which we will get to shortly. I just want to show that within draw, yes, draw manager, then visualize the attorney. I had to switch it around so that it's friends with the scene, and then draw manager. So now the engine isn't micromanaging the scene. Moving on to what we had to do for this week, we have our sprite string and font. Let's start with a sprite string. So we just have, it's given us a font to use, what to render, and where to render it. And then we have our collection of little glyphs to use, a few getter functions, moving it around and rendering it. And within the set function, we get the pointers to the glyphs. So we don't store duplicates. Well, we store duplicate pointers, but we don't have like we don't create new glyphs, basically. Within render, we set position so that we don't have problems with glyphs not appearing at the right spot. If you have two eyes, you don't just suddenly lose one. Things like that. Within the font, we just have the getGlyph function here. Otherwise, we have the sprite font manager handles mostly the construction, so the user doesn't really need to worry about this. I might even make this private just so that the user has to go through the sprite font manager, but maybe not. And then most of this is your stuff, but down here we have this, and then couldn't think of an easier way to do this. If we find out that we have the spacebar, then we just make a new glyph for tab as well, where it's scaled by 4. So it's basically 4 spacebars. That was my workaround for creating tab so that I could use it within the screen log. It's a bit inefficient when it loads up, but we're allowed a little inefficiency, hopefully. It's not pretty, but it works. For the screen log, we have add, which uses the printf functionality. As you can see, we have our debug car here. I've started work on panels. It's not currently in operation. I still need to convert from world space to screen space, but that's still, it's optional, but yes, it's a work in progress. I'm just going to do it. Within screen log CPP, you can see, yeah, we're using vsprintf, push back the messages, and then we go through them all, offset the height, and so on and so forth. Within the game engine side, I did a mini UI. It's not, the text currently needs to be reworked. It's very hard to see, but we have the basics for it. It's just a matter of changing up the text, mostly. So once we load in, we will see our lovely game. You can see that I have this amazing text right here just to kind of show it off. We have our position being continually updated here. Our enemies now look a little different. We can fire at them. And down here, you can see what I mean. It's very hard to see, but we have 2 enemies left and we have 4 HP. So if we were to die, then, we would lose. There's currently nothing beyond a you lose text. We have 1 HP, so if we were to run over to this enemy. We have bullet drop, as you can see, they're not quite reaching us, and I don't have the AI set up so that it can account for that. But now we lose, and again, the text is very not good. Eventually I'll have a title screen, so after just like a second of this, it'll cut back to that, and then we'll have a quote-unquote game. It won't be great, but it'll be functional. And that's all I have for this week.